Today, I'm diving into the one question that actually matters in this entire conflict. Not about winning, not about strike counts, not about Trump's latest statement or Iran's newest threat. The real question is this: can America find an exit? Can it broker a ceasefire? Can it withdraw? Can it escape? And here's what's unsettling when you look carefully: America is trapped. It's stuck between walls. It cannot move forward and cannot move back. Today, I'm breaking down exactly why, step by step, in plain, clear language you can follow. Let's start. Part 1. This war feeds itself. Here's what you need to grasp. Once a war gains momentum like this, it develops its own logic, its own rules. It stops being controlled by politicians and generals and starts controlling them instead. Look at Ukraine. When it started in February 2022, both sides recognized quickly that peace was achievable. Both sides knew the devastation mounting, the suffering spreading, the costs climbing. Yet here we are, 4 years later, and that war still grinds forward, still destroying, still claiming lives and economies. Why? Because stopping a war demands one side surrender something unbearable, accept loss, accept shame, accept defeat that feels impossible. Most governments, most leaders can't do it. This Iran conflict will follow that same pattern exactly. Neither side will give up even when it's clearly smarter to stop. This war could stretch on for years without end. That's not a forecast. That's history repeating, a cycle proven over and over. But here's what makes this situation more dangerous than Ukraine. Even if America wanted to stop, even if America chose today to end it, it can't. Not because Iran refuses talks, but because Iran's terms would devastate America so thoroughly that fighting looks better. Let me walk you through this trap carefully. Part 2. The ceasefire paradox. Picture this. America decides it needs a deal. It picks up the phone, reaches through back channels, maybe Oman or Qatar, and says, let's negotiate. What does Iran respond? We'll stop fighting, with conditions. First, America pays Iran roughly $1 trillion in reparations. $1 trillion for the destruction this war caused, for decades of sanctions, for the economic harm inflicted on Iranian citizens. Second, and this is the critical part, America must leave the Middle East entirely, pull out bases, withdraw forces, remove military presence from the whole region permanently. Because Iran's logic is simple. Iran's only guarantee of survival means ensuring America can never return to do this again. Some might think that sounds reasonable, that maybe America should exit the region anyway. But that thinking misses the real picture. The moment America leaves the Middle East, a chain reaction starts. A domino cascade that would be catastrophic for American wealth and American power worldwide. Let me walk you through this domino cascade step by step. Step 1. The Gulf becomes Iran's orbit. Right now, Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, they exist under American military protection. America keeps them safe. America is why they operate as independent nations. The instant America pulls back, that shield vanishes. And only one nation in the region has the military strength to protect the Gulf and control the Strait of Hormuz: Iran. So these Gulf nations face reality. They become Iranian client states. They fall under Iranian dominance. They make their peace with Iran because without American protection, Iran's the only power that matters. Step 2. The petrodollar collapses. This is where things get serious for America. Because the Gulf isn't just oil-rich desert nations. The Gulf is the foundation of something called the petrodollar. And the petrodollar is literally the single most important machine keeping American prosperity running. Think of it this way. Gulf nations sell their oil in US dollars. Every barrel from Saudi Arabia, every cubic foot from Qatar, priced in US dollars. That means every nation on earth needing Gulf energy, basically everyone, must hold US dollars to buy it. That creates constant worldwide demand for American currency. Then the Gulf takes those dollars earned from oil sales and sends them back through American investments. They buy American treasury bonds, they fund American markets, they finance American borrowing. This recycling mechanism, this petrodollar system, is what allows America to function while carrying $39 trillion in debt. 39 trillion. The American economy basically runs as a Ponzi scheme, dependent on foreign nations endlessly buying US dollars and debt to keep going. The petrodollar powers the whole operation. Now, when the Gulf falls under Iran's influence, what happens? The petrodollar vanishes. The Gulf loses all incentive to price oil in US dollars. It stops recycling earnings back into American investments. The entire superstructure of American financial strength collapses. And remember, America carries 39 trillion in debt. Without the petrodollar, without foreign buyers continuously taking US dollars, the American economy cannot manage that debt. It cannot survive. The fallout would be devastating. Step 3, Japan and South Korea rearm. Now let's see what happens in Asia when America leaves the Middle East. Japan and South Korea are watching everything unfold extremely carefully. They're watching America struggle against Iran. They're witnessing American military limits exposed in real time, and they're facing an uncomfortable reality. If America cannot decisively defeat Iran, can America actually defend us against China, against North Korea? Can we trust our safety to a nation that's clearly stretched too thin and struggling? And if America exits the Middle East, that question cannot be ignored. Because if America abandons the Middle East when things get tough, maybe it'll abandon Asia too. So Japan and South Korea conclude they have no choice. They must rearm. They must build military strength. They must stop counting on America and start building their own shield. Japan, pacifist since World War II, is already discussing its biggest military expansion since the war ended. That process accelerates massively if America withdraws from the Middle East. And here's the impact on America. Japan and South Korea reaming means spending their money on their own defenses, not buying American weapons or supporting American military manufacturing. Another serious wound to American economic and strategic dominance. Step 4. Europe cuts a deal with Russia. Now let's look at Europe. Currently, Europe backs America's confrontation with Russia over Ukraine. It's bearing enormous economic burdens, energy burdens, military expenses, refugee pressure to maintain that stance. But Europe is monitoring the Middle East intently. And if America exits the Middle East, Europe draws a clear, logical line. If America is leaving the Middle East, America is stepping back from global commitments. That means America is declining, that America's already overextended. And if that's true, Europe cannot keep spending resources confronting Russia over Ukraine. Europe cannot afford to do America's bidding anymore. So Europe makes its peace with Russia. It stops supporting Ukraine. It pivots to its own regional interests. Russia emerges from Ukraine weakened but intact, controlling territory but still isolated. But America loses its greatest strategic advantage, Europe. And without Europe, American power in the world collapses. Step 5. The US dollar loses reserve currency status. Now we look at the final domino. For decades, the US dollar has been the world's reserve currency. Every nation holds dollars. Every trade routes through dollars. Every central bank keeps dollars as backup. But reserve currency status isn't permanent. It's a privilege that must be earned and defended. It depends on trust. It depends on the belief that the dollar will hold its value, that America won't misuse it, that America will stay stable and strong. Now that trust collapses, the GCC no longer needs dollars. Europe no longer trusts America. Japan and South Korea no longer depend on America. Nations begin ditching the dollar. They trade in euros, in yuan, in other currencies. Other nations do the same. And slowly, then quickly, the dollar loses reserve status. Suddenly, America holds 39 trillion in debt while the currency backing that debt becomes worthless. The dollar crashes, prices spike everywhere. Americans lose their savings. The entire American economy, the global economy, descends into chaos. That is the ceasefire trap. And this is why America cannot negotiate, cannot settle, cannot walk away from this war no matter how badly it wants to. So let's look at option 2. What if America just sends ground troops? Part 3, the ground war trap. Some say America should escalate, should invade, should commit ground forces and settle this militarily. Let's trace where that leads. America puts soldiers on the beach at Kish Island in Iran. Fine. But Kish Island sits offshore, so Iran starts hitting from the coast. So now American forces move to the Iranian coast, but the Iranian coast is overlooked by the Zagros Mountains. So Iran starts hitting from the mountains. America has to take the mountains now, and once you're in the Zagros, you're inside Iran. You're occupying Iranian territory. You've crossed from a limited operation into a full-scale land war inside one of the world's most geographically brutal countries. This is mission creep on display, and history shows exactly where mission creep leads. In 1965, America sent 3,300 Marines into Vietnam. Just 3,300. A focused mission, clear goals. 4 years later, America had 500,000 troops there, 500,000, from 3,300 to 500,000. Here's the mechanism. Once you commit, once you're in, you cannot leave because leaving means admitting you failed. And the lives already sacrificed, the money already spent, makes leaving impossible politically and psychologically. That's the sunk cost trap. It's one of the most powerful, dangerous forces in human judgment. Once you've invested enough, once you've lost enough, you keep pushing. Not because it makes sense, but because stopping feels like all that sacrifice was pointless. America lived through this in Vietnam. It lived through it in Iraq. It went through it in Afghanistan. And it's about to experience it again in Iran. Part 4. Why America is actually losing this battle. Now, here's something mainstream media is completely hiding from you. The American military does not want this war, not because American soldiers lack courage or skill, they don't, but because military planners have run this conflict through simulations, tested it in scenarios, modeled countless variations, and every single war game, America loses. Let me repeat that. Every single time American strategists simulate a full-scale war against Iran, they lose. Why? Because the American military is engineered for one specific kind of war. It's built for shock and awe, for overwhelming air superiority, for precision strikes that dismantle enemy defenses in days. That's exactly what happened in Iraq in 2003. America achieved air dominance in days, rolled into Baghdad in weeks, removed the regime in under a month. Clean, fast, simple. But Iran is completely different. Iran has spent over 20 years studying America's military playbook. It's watched every American war, dissected every American tactic, cataloged every American weakness, and designed its entire military strategy specifically to counter America's approach. Iran doesn't fight like America wants to fight. It doesn't mass forces that air power destroys. It disperses. It hides. It uses asymmetric warfare, drones, hypersonic missiles, underground bases, proxy forces throughout the region, all designed to neutralize America's advantages and exploit America's weaknesses. And nowhere is this clearer than America's aircraft carriers, the USS Abraham Lincoln and the USS Gerald Ford. These are the most powerful naval machines ever constructed. Each carries enough firepower to devastate a country. They're the ultimate representation of American military dominance, and they sit far offshore from Iran, posturing but not engaging, because moving closer means entering the range of Iranian drones and hypersonic missiles. And a carrier, despite its power, is also an enormous bullseye. Losing a carrier would represent one of the most catastrophic military and psychological defeats America has ever experienced. So the carriers maintain distance, and Iran knows they will. The Iranians spent over 20 years preparing for this exact scenario. They know the American playbook better than most American commanders, and they possess the perfect counter. Part 5. What should America actually do? Given all this, given that America cannot stop, cannot retreat, cannot achieve clean victory, and is sliding toward the ground invasion trap, what should America actually do? The honest answer requires zooming out and seeing the complete picture. This conflict doesn't exist independently. It connects to everything else happening in our world right now. The trade tensions with China, the Ukraine war, the Asian standoff, everything. These aren't separate problems. They're all pieces of one larger problem. American power is overextended. It has presence everywhere. Every conflict, every region, every dispute. And by being everywhere, it allows enemies to provoke it, to pull it into conflicts that drain resources, destroy reputation, and erode global position. That's what's happening now. The only genuine solution, the only path that preserves American strength and world balance is a massive strategic shift. Instead of dominating everything, America needs to sit with everyone, Russia, China, Iran, and accept that the old world order where America stood unchallenged has finished, and a new order must emerge. One where America isn't the aggressor, but a true partner, where every major power has reasons to maintain peace, where the global economy operates in ways that benefit everyone, not just a select few. What does that look like practically? America stops maintaining military bases in 80 countries. America stops using the dollar as a tool of financial punishment against nations it opposes. America sits together with Russia, China, Iran, and says we all have legitimate interests. We all need something. We all have people counting on us. Let's create a system where everyone gets enough of what they require so nobody feels forced into warfare for survival. That isn't surrender, that's wisdom. And right now, wisdom is the only thing preventing the catastrophe waiting if this conflict continues its current trajectory. Whether America possesses the humility and imagination to choose that path remains unknown. But I know this. The longer America delays making this choice, the steeper the cost becomes. For America, for Iran, for all of us. So let's recap what we've covered. This war has its own driving force exactly like Ukraine, and both sides struggle to stop it. America cannot cut a deal because Iran's price creates a catastrophic five-part chain reaction. The Gulf becomes Iran's client states. The petrodollar crashes. Japan and South Korea rearm. Europe makes peace with Russia. The US dollar loses reserve status. The American economy, built on $39 trillion in debt, collapses entirely. America cannot deploy ground troops because Kish Island leads to the coast, leads to the Zagros Mountains, leads to a catastrophic land war. Mission creep exactly like Vietnam, from 3,300 Marines escalating to 500,000 troops. America cannot win militarily because the American military loses every single war game simulation against Iran. And Iran spent 20 years building the perfect counter to America's approach. America is trapped. It cannot move forward. It cannot move back. It cannot remain where it is forever. And the only exit, the only path preventing catastrophe, is wisdom, partnership, a new world order where America leads through cooperation instead of control. Whether that happens, only time determines. Subscribe for deeper analysis of this conflict explained clearly and simply. And tell me in the comments, do you believe America will find a way out of this trap? And what do you think? Will this war continue for years just like Ukraine? I'll see you next time. Share this video to your friends.